Hey guys, it's Dukon Red 1 and welcome to episode 2 of Dukonians Reforged. We are back today with a finished village that we started in episode 1. We named it Dun Caledon, which style is loosely based off of a Celtic Iron Age settlement with quite obvious fantasy elements. It took us 2 months to finish using the Conquest Reforged survival mod created by I Like to Get Wrecked. The first episode pretty much explains everything we are doing here, so make sure you watch that for clarification. Now there is a lot of content to cover in this episode, and I intend to be as thorough as I can. For anything that I do miss, feel free to watch the second, more complete walkthrough listed in the description. So Dun Caledon is a fortified hill village overlooking a lake to the east and grasslands to the north, west, and south. Designed to be a fishing village, the goal is to have design elements throughout, indicating that fish is a primary export. Sticking to a more fortified approach, we created an artificial mound to foundation our project, giving it a height advantage to the surrounding plains. Designing the overall village shape to have smooth curves, we avoided any jagged lines, using increments versus randomized placement. Not only does this create a more natural outline, but also ensures a smooth edge with few blind spots. Raising the southern platform, we not only created a focal point for the council building, but also raised it up enough to give it proper height advantage to the southern terrain level. To the east, facing the lake, there was a significant section of the artificial mound to be created. Now don't pay much attention to the current static design of the hillside, as that will be naturalized and weathered later in this episode. To the north of the village, the spine of the hill we are building on continued and presented a flaw in the artificial mound design. So the Dukonians came together and dug a gorge, which eventually would become a road, and the opposite side a quarry for the village's stone needs. Now that we had our foundation laid, it was time to fill in the gaps and make a blank canvas for what is to come. First, using a layer of stone, we then leveled the top with grass. It was now time to design our layout. We chose to implement 3 dwellings, 3 granaries, a smoker, blacksmith, the council hall with the adjacent giant's home, and 2 additions to our original plan, an herbalist's hut and a stables. The council hall roof was our first structure to tackle. It was here where we realized how much wheat we would need in order to cover our village. Next, Meso started on the herbalist's hut, and Thomas, the original designer of our style, built the exterior of one of the northern dwellings. Fingolfin, the Dukonian shipmaster, built a magnificent fishing boat in the lake. Look at those sails. Knowing that we would need an incredible amount of wheat, Saltheart and Vontul dug out a space and planted a massive wheat field within the foundation of our village. At this point, we now had a pretty good idea for how to properly transfer our roof style into survival gameplay. We finished the foundation to the council building, and then we added our resident giant's home. The foundation to the herbalist's hut also was finished. Meso really wanted a tiered design, which I think really suits the style and purpose nicely. The western side was quite boring, and we felt it needed something to make it more defensible. The plan was to have a ditch anyways, but the western gate needed more to its design to fit the terrain pattern. The conclusion was to add a second tier of defense outside the main entrance that would lead down to a lower gate surrounded by a ditch and overshadowed by the main walls. Following around the western, southern, and exposed eastern sides, we then dug a ditch at the base of the mound. This ditch would hinder charging enemies and maximize defense capabilities of the village folk. Believe it or not, the wall was one of the most tedious tasks of building this project, but with the help of my fellow Dukonians, we were able to get it done in a day's work. The design is quite simple. A cobbled foundation slightly extruded from the wood with a variated texture stockade and strip points to indicate spikes and hewn lumber. The backside has a wooden walkway and earth to shore up the wall for better support. At this point, our goal was to focus all hands on the inside of the walls. Further fleshing out our western side, Secleton came in and designed a truly unique and interesting barbican. The rolling stone with long poles to leverage its movement is just such a nice touch. He did a truly fine job with this one. To the north, a fish without fins has been working on the quarry. Vontul and I worked on the northern lake or fishing gate, curving the causeway more steadily and making it a rectangular structure with a style-appropriate roof. To finish the wall, we now need to design and incorporate something unique for the western main gate. After some trial and error, we developed something actually quite interesting, incorporating two leaning monoliths on each other for the foundation of the entrance. We then developed a cobbled base, a wooden platform, and then a unique elongated bell-shaped roof. Finishing the barbican and surrounding the kill box with stockades, we now are getting a really good idea for how the west side will look. Not wanting to use too much cobble, we met halfway and used the negative space as a wooden platform to reach the top of the stockades. Next, and my personal favorite part of the build, the fire circle. We positioned it strategically centered in front of the council building, and it takes a central position in Dukonian as a village. Surrounding the fire with 7 monoliths, one of which is broken in half by a tree, this location demonstrates a lore point in our build and acts as a ceremonial or festival location. Secleton designed the altar itself, another very uniquely designed feature of our build. Pretty much clustering 3 separate buildings and connecting the roofs, we designed our stables, adding a paddock in front for the animals to have room to move around. Towards the lake, Saltheart built our fish smoker so that the village's catch can be preserved for long-term storage and exported. Seeing as our village is a fishing village, there will be more indicators added as we progress in this episode. Meanwhile, Fingolfin has been hard at work outside the village, working on a lakeside beach, dock, and a boatmaker's cottage along the shoreline. Inside the village, we started adding watchtowers to overlook strategic points for best coverage. The foundation to the second northern and largest dwelling of Dukonian was also completed, adorning its entrance with 2 monoliths and a spacious roof for interior comfort. At this point, the main structural parts of Dukonian are roughed in, and we get a good idea for what the final project is going to look like. Building something like this in survival is quite a process. The storage building, like the stables, is another collection of buildings with connected roofs, the backmost of which is a large grain silo. A fish without fins designed the eastern dwelling to be something quite unique and organic. This type of building is quite frustrating in survival, so respect to him for enduring that pain. And now for the final reveal, and what the Dukonians spent the past 2 months working on. Something that I find fascinating is the before-after comparisons of certain areas. We can see the progression and understand what the foundation was and what it has become. It's amazing what some blocks, creativity, and a little bit of time can do. We will start with the northern side of the village, the storage building and 2 dwellings. The first thing to mention is how overgrown and full of life Dunkaladen is. The trees, mushrooms, flowers, and vines add so much color and life to our build. The clustered storage building layout turned out quite nicely, and conveniently located directly by the grain silo is the bakery. Clearly quite a fantasy design, we wanted to make it something out of the ordinary. Each dwelling is allotted a garden space where the inhabitants can produce their own food and resources. Their living environment would be quite hospitable, favoring hospitality towards outsiders in their dwellings versus designated inns of the more medieval cultures. Of course, the surroundings would be the breadbasket for the village, but the gardens provide an element of self-reliance for each dwelling. The original plan thought up by Meso and Secleton, Fingolfin ended up finishing up the main village well with this fantastic and lore-based design. The fire circle is my favorite part of this build. It's really neat to see what this patch of grass has become. The final design ended up utilizing 6 of the monoliths as pedestals for glowing energy crystals. The 7th monolith, toppled in half by the tree, creates an organic atmosphere, conveying weathering and decay over a period of time. Spanning between each monolith is a garland of flowers and leaves, using the clematis foliage as the main feature. The intention with this area would be used for festivities, village announcements, and religious ceremonies as appropriate to Dunkaladen's culture and lore. The council building and surrounding area truly has seen some major progression. There is a lot to cover here. The largest building in our village, the council hall, really shaped up to be something quite interesting. Django designed the tribal effigy adorning the entrance, and the dormers up top give it a nice touch. Between the council hall and Saltheart's giant's home is a great horn designed by Secleton, which would be blown from the watchtower directly behind in the event of an attack and other special occasions. Other features include an archery or recreational building built by Frar, an obsidian monolith, and 2 great trees, the spruce tree of which is dedicated to the Dukonians as on our sigil. These 2 griffins, built by Saltheart, are dedicated to our very special friend, It's Truth. Truth provided all the Dukonians with fully enchanted tools, weapons, and armor, which in survival is a huge gift and greatly increased our effectiveness in building Dunkaladen. Next, we will see how far the stables and blacksmith on the western side of the village has come. One of the most notable features of this side are 2 spore plants designed by Saltheart. These add a really neat and unique touch to our village, and is a nice change of scenery from all the mushrooms. Now back to the main well again. The design is based around magical and religious lore, where the water would shoot up from the ground like a spring and pool out, allowing the village folks to collect water from the reservoir in front. I really like how seemingly industrial this side of the village became. The blacksmith, built by Saltheart, conveys the Iron Age technology of our village quite well. Coming down the western path, dwarfed apple trees are being harvested in front of the open vaults where urns of the deceased are kept. A potter's workshop and smelters continue down the path, keeping to an industrial theme. Needing a place for our horses in survival, we were sure to include a stables and paddock, giving yet another purposeful and useful feature for our village. On the eastern side, we can see how far the herbalist hut, dwelling, and fish smoker area has come. If you can't tell, this is the side where we decided we wanted to use mushrooms in our village. I feel that the vibrant colors add such a nice pop to the atmosphere. Framing the herbalist hut in with the mushrooms and the fantasy tree as a backdrop really sets this hut out as a distinctive structure. A cauldron to mix up some fancy brews and a small well adjacent presents a fun and appropriate detail. Behind the herbalist is the fish processing section of our village, a fishmonger, smoker, and a cold storage building inspired by ancient Persian yakchals to keep the unsmoked meat fresh. Now, one of the most fun parts of Dunkaladen is Mushroom Alley. On the far eastern side, we had this idea to create a magical and glowing path using an assortment of mushrooms and foliage. Saltheart and I really enjoyed making this section, and it certainly gives the village a special touch. A huge petrified stump built by Saltheart acts as our nether portal location, a garden full of fruit trees, vegetables, and flowers out front of the dwelling, and a sailmaker for added purpose. This being the main entrance to the village, we really wanted to make sure that the result felt intimidating and distinctive to our build. Using the tree to balance out the size and oblong shape of the main gate building, while not realistic by any means, the atmosphere speaks for itself. Pushing out the earthworks and adding the outer ward really helped make the west side more defensible and practical. It just would not have been the same if the road came right up to the main gate from the surrounding terrain. This outer ward would be quite difficult to overcome, to say the least. And yet another view of that rolling stone gate designed by Secleton. I really like how that turned out. The totems designed by Django add a really neat tribal touch to our main entrance. Also notice the monoliths leaning on each other to support the gate opening. Now this inner causeway was really quite fun to build. We felt it needed something fun and different, so we chose to line the sides with monoliths and span the gaps with wooden fortifications, not only for purpose, but also the contrast value. The vines and flags up above really bring it together as well. The design of this gate structure and roof have such an organic profile. It makes for something quite special and imposing to see as you approach the village from the west. Next, we will see how much progress we made on the eastern side of our village, focusing on the fishing gate. Mesa wanted a big purple and orange tree behind her house, and so front and center is the result from that wish. Leading down from the fishing gate is a long and wide causeway. Fingolfin did all the work out here, including the beach, the dock, terraforming, and the cottage. Coming inside, we see more work by Fingolfin, the inner causeway of the fishing gate. Much more rustic and crude than the west side, it gives a unique vibe for our less defensible entrance. Overall, I like how this side turned out. While the west gate is designed more for the wow factor, the fishing gate is designed to be more practical and purposeful for the working class. Two things to mention here are the finished walls and hillside. You will notice along the walls there are garderobes, or poop chutes in other words. We wanted to have an option to expel waste other than outhouses throughout the village, so these garderobes were an appropriate option. The hillside is covered in a mixture of grasses and patches of flowers for color. Notice the flow paths every now and then, where runoff would flow during and after a storm. These are not only to add detail and purpose, but also a really neat naturalized look to the overall build. Now, I want to specifically shout out Saltheart and the role he played in building this village. From the very beginning, Salt was determined to get on and make sure that all was in order, and helped with many of the background logistics getting started. In survival gameplay, resourcing plays a huge role, and he took it upon himself to ensure that the group had what they needed when they needed it. Myself, for example, when I get on, I have a very limited amount of time, preferring to build in that time. Saltheart was always kind enough to have the resources needed for a specific project ready to go when it was time for me to livestream. Not only that, but the moral support and his reliability inspired me to push through the negative aspects that really made this project a lot of fun. Saltheart is not only a giant in Dukonian lore, but also a giant at heart in being our steadfast and reliable friend. So thank you, Salt. We really could not have done this without you. Other notable mentions of progress around Dukonian is more work by Fingolfin. North of the village, up on the hill, is a festival circle inspired by Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The color, design, and stag statue just really make this pop. He also made some fields between the village and the festival circle. And let's take one more look at Fingolfin's fishing boat. Such a great design. Next to the boatmaker's cottages, well, a boat being made. Really liking these details. On the southeast side, Frar dug a creek, and is working to add in proper natural details along the banks. Outside Dukonian Lands, there have been many others building their own projects and settlements across the server. First, we see the server spawn town, Conquest Hill, led by I Like to Get Wrecked. If you guys remember in episode 1, this was just a cleared plateau, and now walled in and full of buildings. Great work to all those who participated. Next, we got a hamlet by Callus. The details and atmosphere here are phenomenal. He completed this build 2 weeks from the server launch. He is an absolute machine. Just southwest is Zazzy's castle themed from Kingdom Come Deliverance. Really liking the layout and style here. Excited to see what she does next. Far to the south, Boitamu has been working on a village themed after Riverwood from Skyrim. Really liking the atmosphere of the entrance here. Heartward, Jay Scullage, and Minecraft Mom have been working far on the eastern coast of the continent, building a city themed from medieval Ireland. So something I would like to mention is the Dukonians are looking for more active members to participate in making these episodes possible. Many of the current Dukonians are busy and are not able to be active. This means we are looking for team-focused people, experienced building and conquest, and willing to stick to the episode format as pre-planned. In the description is a link to my Discord. There you may ask for a Google form to fill out where you may apply for trial status. The trial rank lasts 1 month, after which there is a decision if the prospective member is a good fit for the team or not. There will only be 2 trial slots open a month, however, as we want to maintain a quality environment for new members. This series will ideally include mini projects, mostly in creative Conquest Reforged. The more active members, the quicker and more efficient we can make this process. These episodes are only possible with the help of this community, so I look forward to and I hope for more to come. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. You can let me know that by leaving a comment and hitting that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, you can watch the second full walkthrough video that is listed in the description. Also, you can watch over 100 hours of past broadcast content. So like 25 streams worth. That too is listed in the description, and each stream is labeled to specific tasks. If you want to keep up with me, you can follow my Discord, and make sure you guys follow me over on Twitch. Personally, I prefer Twitch. I can be more personal and natural with you guys. There is a lot of really cool stuff to come in this series. I got big plans, and each episode will cover a lot of content like you have seen in this video. With that all being said, thank you for watching, and I look forward to the next one. Till then, bye-bye.